Welcome to the Mod4PH Research Highlights. This is a public health podcast produced by the National Collaborating Center for Infectious Diseases. My name is Wendy Sia, and I'm a project manager at NCCID. In this podcast series, we showcase mathematical modeling concepts and research for application in public health. You are listening to the last episode in a 5-part mini-series dedicated to highlighting the exciting research being led by members of the Artificial Intelligence and Mathematical Modeling Lab, or AIMMLab. You might also hear us refer to the team as AIMMLab. This lab is directed by Dr. Jude at the University of Toronto. In the final episode of this Mod4PH mini-series, Jude and I will reflect on all of the research that we have heard about from other members of the AIMMLab and discuss the future of the AI and math modeling landscape for Canadian public health. Hello to everyone listening in to the Mod4PH podcast. A huge welcome back to Dr. Jude Kong. Thank you again for joining us for this last episode of this 5-part mini-series.
Hello, Wendy.
It's been an incredibly fun and insightful 4 episodes so far. This is the 5th and the last. I've greatly enjoyed working with the AIMMLab team. And today I would like for us to revisit some of the central themes that we've heard about in previous episodes of this mini-series. So first, let's get started with a key message from my conversation with Sharif.
From the work we've done so far, this is not just about the technology, right? It's about the relationship. It's about the trust and the shared ownership of the knowledge we create. So I really do hope we'll have a lot of people come into AIMMLab to just kind of share with us what problems they're having with their communities. We work together to see how this is solved.
So Sharif is a part of the AIMMLab program that works directly with high school students to build capacity for AI and math modeling at the community level and co-developing solutions for community-identified questions and health priorities. So circling back to the introduction episode, we talked about the conceptual framework of the AIMMLab. How do you think this program encapsulates what you and the team are striving to achieve in the field of AI and math modeling for public health?
Looking at our conceptual framework, which I will remind everyone, it's like a house. When you build a house, it lays on a foundation. Our foundation is health and well-being for all and gender equality. Each house has pillars. We have 3 pillars that stand on top of the foundation of AIMMLab, which are timely and reliable data for public health decision-making, resilient, strong, and fair health systems, and the inclusion and equity for vulnerable groups. And then we follow the disease life cycle from creating solutions to help with earlier detection, which is like the structure, the walls of the house, earlier warning systems, solutions that help in earlier warning systems, early response, and then mitigation, control, and eradication. And then the roof, that roof the entire house is the One Health concept, that human health is not dissociated from animal and environmental health. Sharif point out to the way we work. We build relationship with the communities. We learn from the communities as we build those relationships as to the issues in the communities. What is the problem? Because we are part of the communities. We plan on how to solve those problems with the communities. We co-create the solution with the communities. We build capacity in the communities while doing that. And Sharif touched on the capacity piece, where we have students from high school coming into the lab every Saturday to learn how to build these solutions to solve the issues in their communities. We have people that are working on data in community health center coming to the lab to learn on the novel mathematical approach. How do you model in mathematically? The novel artificial intelligence approach. How do you handle this? When we sit in the universities, then we use the money and build problems in the universities, then go to the community and throw it on them, that this is the solution to your problems. What tends to happen, Wendy, is that, well, if you do that and then you leave, then the relationship cut when there's nobody is in the community to solve the same problems when maybe there's another outbreak in the community or the problem comes again in the community. What we have been able to do on our part is that If we were to solve a particular problem in the community, there should be one person in the community that can be able to solve that particular problem when it happens again, or that have the capacity to be able to solve it the way we solved it. And for every community we work in, you have a lot of skill set in the community that needs to be built such that people have the skill set to be able to make data actionable, which is the objective of our lab. And we do pay a lot of attention in ensuring that we build this capacity to make data actionable for policies within the community. And Sherif is doing an amazing job in coordinating this.
Thank you so much, Jude. And I really wanted to highlight quickly a program that was brought up by Sharif that I think is in progress right now, which is the program called AI for Bright Futures. Would you quickly provide an overview of what this program is about and when it might be launching and where people would be able to find more information about this?
Thank you. I'm glad that Sherif brought that up. So currently right now, because we have realized that if we do not start at the early stage of the high school to start providing the kid with the foundational AI knowledge and hands-on experience, because we know these kids are passionate about strengthening healthcare systems within their community. Anything that has to do with their community, they're super passionate. So what we do is we are creating a program. Currently, we have started with the Durham School Board, working with them. We bring the kids into the lab. We provide them with the foundational skill set. And then we bring in community experts from the community leaders from community health centers that have issues within the community. They present it to these kids. Some of the kids come with issues already. Then they move back, and then every Saturday, they meet online with a team from the lab to train them on the foundational skill to solve that particular issue that was presented to them. Because we start by giving them the functional skill. They're excited about AI. That changed their mindset. They are excited about hands-on, using that AI knowledge to solve the issues in their communities. Then throughout the whole year, we meet every Saturday where the kid now work with somebody in the lab, a postdoc, as well as a community, somebody from the community, in particular community health center. The community health center keep on providing knowledge to the student from high school, and then the person from the lab help them to be able to learn the skill set to solve that particular problem. And throughout the entire year, the kids work with this team to solve that particular problem. At the end of the year, we bring the kids back to be able to present it in front of the community health center, and that solution end up being used in the community. The kids become very passionate about coming to university to learn disease modeling. The kids spend time in the university environment, and what are we doing here? We are building capacity of kids that are seeing now the importance of mathematics, how mathematics can be used to solve problems in their communities. It demystifies mathematics. It makes them think about mathematics differently. So we achieve that, and they're passionate. What is the end result of this program is that you end up with a mass of students across the country that are passionate about community issues, that are building responsible AI solutions for the communities. Now, you asked me about where this can be found. On our website, if you go on the website, you will see a link to just indicate whether you want to join several of the programs that we have in the lab. When you indicate that, then somebody will get in touch with you. We started with high school now. We have grade 7 and grade 8 because we want to change that mindset. We want to get that excitement even before they get into high school, because that excitement can determine what they will study in high school, so that they don't end up moving to a different stream, not knowing what they could do with the algebra and the calculus they're learning. That motivates them to want to learn more about the algebra and the calculus, and motivate them to want to move towards the STEM field in order to be able to model diseases within their community, to solve issues within their communities. And I can tell you from the testimonies we have been receiving, a lot of kids currently have gone to university to continue to study mathematics because they saw the values there, to say, I want to study mathematics so that I can be able to leverage mathematical modeling and AI to solve issues in my communities, because they spend time in the lab. I am so impressed with when I talk to these kids of the future of the country, because I see kids that would never have ever thought of even doing mathematics, being passionate about it. What that tells me is that we'll get different communities sitting on the table when we're creating solutions for our communities, and we'll get different feedback loop, and at the end, we'll get a solution that addresses everyone because everyone is included in creating the solution and they understand the dynamics in their own community.
I think it's fantastic for these students to have mentors and people to look up to, such as the team at AIMMLab, who are directly applying the skills and the tools that these students are learning for application in public health and real world problem solving. So next, we'll revisit some of the work that Ting has done in incorporating human behavior into traditional math models of disease transmission using mpox in this case as an example.
And we model two kinds of their specific types of behavior. One is adaptive behavior, so they can adapt how they will be engaging in sexual activities based on their perceived risk of the transmission of mpox. And the second type of behavior is risk compensation. That is, if they take consistent control measures to protect themselves, they maybe think they're safe to be engaged in more sexual activity. So that can also influence the transmission between within this community.
Ting spoke about expanding on existing frameworks of infectious disease models and creating new multi-level models which account for risk perception and the ways that this results in different behavior at the individual level in the case of outbreaks. And similarly, we also heard from Yang, another AIMMLab team member who is working to develop an AI tool for explainable epidemic models. Let's quickly hear from Yang.
So what we did is trying to combine the traditional mathematical modeling and the advanced physical informed neural networks to make hybrid models that can either have very high accuracy of the modeling predictions, but also a strong explainable AI aspects. So we believe this will be used as a smart toolbox for the policymakers in Canada and to make the predictions of pandemic management in the futures.
In both Ting and Yang's projects, we learned more about different ways in which novel methods can be developed to improve upon traditional models of disease transmission. Why is this such an important direction for the AIMMLab to take, and how do you see this direction of research evolving for your team in the future?
During the pandemic, Wendy, I don't know if you spend a lot of time, even just to go back and look at some of those videos, COVID did actually emphasize the challenges to the classical theory of epidemics. You saw people for the first time, somebody could carry a toilet tissue. There's this image I was looking online the other day and laughing of a lady carrying a toilet tissue in the head and just holding the nose. You went to supermarket and saw people took all the toilet tissues. People ran out of toilet rolls in supermarket. At the same time, you made people, there's this image online of somebody mimicking and said, oh, I never use turn signals and nobody else's business where I'm going. So because that person is acting to individual interest, he doesn't care. If I don't use turn signals, I don't care if somebody's coming the other way and it's nobody's business to tell me what to do. This is how human beings show their attitude during the pandemic. The classical models whose limitations were portrayed by COVID-19 assume that the homogeneous population, well-mixed population, rational population, but COVID shows that that was not the case. Prior to COVID starting, there have been a movement looking at double layer models where people will bring in disease and behavior. But when this happened, it's either you're adhering or not adhering. So they assume that it's kind of either you are one or the other. Or information disease model. Those were the two types that look at the dual layer models. You have information disease model where you are either spreading the right information and then they couple that disease model, or you are not. Again, this is great. It improved the classical models and all of them are still very relevant. But the issue here is when it comes to risk compensation, like Ching mentioned, human beings always optimize their risks. It's not a dichotomy. They optimize the risks, which is based on the expected benefit and the prospective loss when it happens to all of this. And so it becomes very, very imperative to move from those single layer, those two layer model to heterogeneous disease behavior information transmission model. So we move from classical to heterogeneous disease behavior information because it's very heterogeneous, taking into account threat perception, the policies, because policymakers look at things differently. Individual and collective interest. Individual interest is not all the time some of the collective interest. Mental health, stress and coping behavior, social context, where you take into account the social norms, social inequality, the culture, political polarization, and science and communication, which become very, very important. How do you communicate that? Fake news coming in, persuasion, conspiracy theories. Again, with the void of information, all of these come in. And this now opened a lot of area to say, for us to be able to solve the issues in our communities, we need to start looking at the shortcomings of the classical epidemic model to see how we move towards integrated disease models. Both Yang and Ching have done a lot of work with bringing into account the hybrid models, creating in Yang case, creating a very unique model, quantifying human behavior, because we could think of, okay, let's integrate human behavior. What's the functional form to use? What we have done is to bring in the AI model to learn from the data and then suggest the functional form, and then we validate that functional form for human behavior with existing data. And we have several candidates for different diseases for human behavior right now, thanks to the hybrid physics-informed neural network model that we're using within epidemics to model epidemics. And as you will see in the publication that Yang has coming up, that has proven to be very, very effective. The functional form that we have suggested, we have come up with, is very highly effective with the different diseases that we have tried to test that on. Within the team, we have moved on to start looking at novel data sources, both conventional and unconventional. That's what we spend a lot of time to say, can we bring in the different data sources to validate some of these approaches? And that's the novel state where we find ourselves, and that's how we think that, that's the way we think that disease modeling, the direction we think that disease modeling should take.
I'm really looking forward to learning more about Young's work, and I hear that he has a publication coming up, so that's extremely exciting. And you did just mention unconventional data. I think that's a great segue for us to listen to what Zara has said about her work.
I just like to say that as we face growing risks from infectious diseases, integrating AI with real-time unconventional data offers a powerful way to detect and respond to outbreaks earlier. And I just believe that it's an exciting step towards smarter, faster, and more accessible public health systems.
So the early detection warning system using unconventional data that Zara described in the previous episode is a huge achievement in terms of moving towards rapid public health responses to infectious disease threats such as avian influenza. How do you view this achievement and the other successes from the AIMMLab and the impact of all of the team's research?
Thank you so much. It's a great achievement. One, during COVID-19, it was widely covered. The work we did using unconventional data was very instrumental in Africa and here in the country, communities across, in predicting disease in real time, identifying hotspots, and providing policymakers with the information that people were discussed within communities, the sentiment towards certain policies, and the disinformation being spread or misinformation. We have an internal dashboard that updates in real time, showcasing being able to provide this real-time focus, hotspots, earlier warning systems. But this will not happen, will not be very highly effective without the unconventional data, which is out of the traditional norm of data that's currently always being used to be able to forecast this. As you have seen, for us to be able to, most of these are unpredictable. If we rely on conventional data, we end up missing a lot. Unconventional data, which is data generated due to when we interact with digital tools, is very, very vital and have proven based on the work that we have done and the current earlier warning system that you can see on our website that's able to forecast respiratory disease 56 days ahead of time, to be very, very and highly effective since we started using it. It's been working effectively. We're able to have signals 56 days ahead of time. We're able to identify the key topics from different communities, what people are discussing, what's being covered in the news. We're able to know sentiment towards particular topics in real time. And this is helping to inform policies within the various communities that we work with, or to the government that we work with. The government use that information to be able to inform policies in the various countries.
Thank you so much, Jude. And from multiple team members, we've heard that the AIMMLab has a lot of different collaborations and partnerships with international partners, one of whom is Gilon. So we'll hear quickly from Gilon about his work.
We have to make sure that co-creation is the central theme of whatever we do. It must be rooted in decolonization, community partnership, and equity, ensuring that technology empowers. By combining local knowledge systems with ethical use of AI, we can build efficient, faster, more fairer, and more trusted health surveillance that serves everyone globally.
So Gilon spoke very passionately about, once again, one of the central themes of the AIMMLab, which is co-creation and working with communities, and also about his work in building digital health solutions, in this case, health surveillance and monitoring in international communities. And I know partnerships with international organizations and communities is a huge part of the work that your team is doing. How do you see the collaborations that your team has built with international partners continuing to benefit and strengthen healthcare systems in Canadian communities?
Thank you for this. I'm glad that Gillian spent a lot of time emphasizing the fact that infections know no boundaries. When it comes to infections, there is no boundary, no border. They don't see oceans, they don't see seas. The whole world is a global village, and what is affecting somebody next door will come knocking soon. So I'm glad that Gillian mentioned that. And we have done a lot of work within the global south, in particular Africa, that has actually impacted communities across Canada. One example would be during Omicron, Wendy, we were working with the government of Gauteng in South Africa, and we used to meet with the government officials every other day. I was so busy during the pandemic, and we had this AI-powered earlier warning system that we had designed that was used by the government of Gauteng, which in real time was providing updates on the hotspots within the country, the predicting cases, forecasting them, and providing earlier warning system in all dimensions, and then equally providing topic modeling as even finances, because we're able to look at the unemployment rate through the data we're getting around that time. Something that worked effectively from the second wave of COVID-19, just right after the first wave, when we came up with that earlier warning system, highly covered internationally by most medias, when we realized that the predictions were not coinciding with because we had access to all the data in real time. So when we focused, and then we realized at one particular moment, our focus was not aligning with the cases. We immediately reported it to policymakers and national labs that were working with us, and they immediately did the sequencing. Around that same time, when they were doing sequencing, they observed Omicron. Actually, that's one of the stories. That's the role our team in South Africa play on the discovery of Omicron in South Africa. The story here was how that moved from there to impact Canadian communities, and why. The work that was done by the team there was funded by the Canadian Crown Corporation, the International Development Research Center of Canada. I was leading that work under the banner of the Canada Africa Artificial Intelligence and Data Innovation Consortium. The team in South Africa started talking to the Ontario Modeling Table about these dynamics. Through this, we organized regular weekly meetings where we'll get the data and provide the intelligence to Canada. With this, Canada ended up being steps ahead of everyone in planning, because intelligence is very vital. We could provide that intelligence on the dynamics of Omicron. With that, Canada was steps ahead with their plan before it ever landed in Canada. And this is just one example of how, when you collaborate with your partners across the world, you are able to get that intelligence that will help your own communities to be steps ahead of every other person. That alone, surely, because of the policies that were put in place, save a lot of lives. Another great thing that we have done, Wendy, is you know how the climate velocity is moving towards the North Pole, right? So which means that this particular spot here could have been very, way colder than temperature. If you had maybe say a mosquito that was comfortable in this environment, and that's the optimal temperature for it, if that environment shift to the next latitude because of climate change, then that mosquito will move to the next latitude because it can survive there, and this temperature is no longer conducive for it. With the advance of climate change, climate velocity moving towards the North Pole, the temperature in our communities here is becoming very conducive to a lot of mosquitoes that before could not consider Canada as home. These mosquitoes carried with them pathogens that we know nothing about. What our team has been able to do over the years is, with our work in the Global South, we have recorded the sounds of more than 78 different mosquitoes, including even those that are BSEM and added to some databases that exist online. We in Ghana has built a tool that is able to listen to each of the sound of the 78 different mosquitoes from different climatic conditions and label the mosquitoes. We have placed this AI powered tool in a mosquito trap and placed it across communities. It records the sounds of the mosquito, and we have this freely available in the cloud to inform policies as well as other researchers to use and advanced research in this direction. This is very, very important because a lot of mosquitoes are coming. Just last year, as we were working in Ghana, there was Anopheles stephanis that used to exist only in Southeast Asia. Was not suitable, the African climate was not suitable to it, but with the advance of climate change, it started appearing in East Africa, and last year, it was in Ghana. A tribe like ours actually identified. Once these mosquitoes come on this trap and we listen to different mosquitoes in different comments and the data exists online, if a mosquito is not around the 78 mosquitoes that have been classified in the lab, the system immediately detects the unknown. If we see a lot of unknown in a particular community, we go to the trap, we extract the mosquito, bring it to the lab at Ken UST, and we look at the pathogen in the mosquito. I'm proud to say that this alone leads to discovery of what pathogen is spreading in what community. What mosquito exists? Are there new mosquitoes that are coming? And are they bringing in new pathogens that we don't know about? This is helping government to prepare very well for pandemics that may exist. Well, it's when they may arrive, not if. In a country like ours, where a lot of mosquitoes are unknown, a lot of pathogens, this data and this tool that we have created is very, very useful. I am happy to say we're adapting right now and in the process of deploying them across the country that will be able to provide researchers with a data set to be able to help the country prepare for pandemics. What is going to happen in the future of this country as a result of this relationship that we have built? There's been a lot of work that moved away from global health. And I want to remind everyone, like Gillian did, infections know no boundaries. So a friend of mine and I were having a conversation the other day, and we said, if you build a solution in Canada or Brazil, that solution will be more impactful everywhere in the world. Because these are two countries when you go to, you see everyone in the world. If you want to travel to the world, you just come to Toronto. You see everyone in the world. You see in Toronto, you can see everyone from any place in the world. What that means is that getting that intelligence from the communities where these people that represent the entire world come from, and bringing that solution back home, you create a solution on average with the data set that's highly relevant to the entire population that you have here. We'll have a solution that's not only relevant to a particular group of people, but will be very, very impactful. And that's why we spend the students that will go out there to create these digital tools that will be impactful to our communities. We spend a lot of time with them working with government and communities across the entire global south, and they get this intelligence. What happened here is that Canadian solutions, because they have intelligence on data from across the entire world, will be highly impactful and outcompete other solutions out there. So the work we have done with our colleagues in the global south have not only strengthened the healthcare system within Canada, and this is thanks to the funding from the Canadian public through the International Development Research Center of Canada. Another big issue that I was going to leave, I almost left out, is when the disinformation or misinformation. We have been able to gather data from all around the world. There are a lot of publications and data we have gathered on different disinformation. And we have created this tool. It's called Dominic, currently widely used in the global south. In Brazil, it's on Telegram. But we're adapting that same tool for disinformation to be deployed in Canada, also group, so that if you see any information online, again, you put it on Dominic. Dominic is able to tell you, based on this data set, and it directs you to the data that we used. It's published data, it's publicly available to know whether this falls here. We are not at the point of saying something is misinformation or disinformation. We are saying that based on these various data sets that have been peer-reviewed and published, there's a high chance that this may be disinformation. There's this level of chance that this may be misinformation. This is very important because in addition to the various diseases that we have in the country, there's bound to be another outbreak, pandemic that we have. That tool will soon be available in the country that will be used by the intelligence coming from the data we had in the global south. And I must say that our Dominic has won several awards, renowned international and national award, and highly used in Brazil. And very soon we'll be able to deploy that tool. And in order to solve the problems in our country, public health equals global health.
Thank you so much, Jude. I think that was a fantastic response highlighting the importance of shared intelligence for Canada across all of your international partnerships. And you also highlighted the roof of the house that we talked about at the beginning of the episode, the One Health approach. So that's such an important direction for us to move towards. For the last portion of our discussion, I would like to discuss the future of AI and math modeling for the AIMMLab and for Canadian public health. Let's reflect first on a key message from Abbas.
One of the capability or criteria we are looking at in AI governance is increasing security, privacy, fairness, ethical, and explainability. So when we are utilizing the federated learning, by design, we are addressing privacy. So to support the air quality policy, to support the health domain, let's try to build a secure and robust and responsible AI systems because it provides safety not only for human but also for our digital world as well.
That was Abbas. In our conversation, he gave us an overview of the potential of federated learning for AI governance and data privacy. And I know this is a special topic of interest for you and your team. So what lies ahead in this field for you and the AIMMLab? Can I get maybe a vision for the next 5 years? What does that look like for you and the team?
I'm glad that Abbas spent a lot of time emphasizing on one Canadian data. We want to link it to the one Canadian economy and said, in an economy that will be driven by data, we want to emphasize on the importance of one Canadian data. Let the data available in Manitoba speak to the data available, public health data in Ontario. There's no boundary when it comes to health between Manitoba and Ontario. Let the data available in Saskatchewan speak to data in Manitoba, Alberta, BC, Yukon, and across the entire country. If we talk of one Canadian economy, to really have a tool that's impactful across the country and across the world, we need to be able to get the data to speak to each other. As we move to break these silos within our provinces in terms of trade, we equally look at silos within the data set. I hope we move towards that direction. And the reason why I brought those to that is because Abbas talked about our work on differential federated learning, ensuring that it's secured. As we keep data privacy, ensuring that community data is protected, we are building a framework that can allow communities to send parameters to each other such that we're able to get the relevant public health parameters that can be used to build solutions that are highly relevant across the entire country, instead of building solutions in silos, using data that is siloed and not talking to each other. And it's very, very important, the framework that we're working on. I must say we have several publications on this already that exist on breaking these silos, the framework that we've come up with, and we're advancing to start having communities use this framework and send parameters to each other so that the solutions we build can be able to use the parameters from every community across the country. Now, talking about parameters from across the country, one thing is, how do we know what data exists within each community in the country? Global health is very vital. If we were to build a solution, how do we know where to go to for what data set across the entire global south? One thing that our team that will be out is, if you're working in Canada and you want to have data, say, from Jane and Finch community or from the Black Creek Community Health Center, if that data exists. Black Creek Community Health Center is our partner that we've worked with, the community we work with all the time. They're doing amazing work, led by a very, very amazing lady, Dr. Cheryl, who's doing great work. What we do with that is, can we create a framework where if you're in Canada and you want to know what community level data exists in which community, you can just go on there and know that data and know which community. How do I get access to this data or parameters from this data? Who do I talk to? So we have built that framework. We're in the process of building that framework. It's almost rounding up to be able to provide that information. Not only about community level data within Canada, the entire global south. How do you know what community level data exists in the global south if you have never interacted with them? How do you get access to that data? Where do you start from? We have a portal that will be coming up live that's able to say, well, if you go in there and say, I'm looking for this data, it's able to point out to you what community level data exists for that particular issue, who you should get in contact with for that data if you need that data. That is something that you will be getting from us soon. At the same time as we build that to be available, that metadata to be available, we're equally working on creating a dictionary across so that defines all those data. At the same time, we will move on to create a blog and a chatbot where they can provide context-sensitive public health information to communities. Creating a blog where we are able to help communities collaborate with each other and engage with each other. Moving from that, the solutions that we have spent a lot of time building in communities that we have worked with in the country here, we want to scale that because we have seen those solutions being very impactful within the various communities we are working with. We want to scale that to be impactful across the entire country. And we are building a relationship. I must say, if you were to ask me, one of our greatest achievements is the relationship we have been able to build with government and communities. That's one of them. In addition to the students, we have been able to train to be passionate, right from elementary school to high school to university level. One thing we're doing is to expand that relationship, expand the number of students we are building. We're really passionate about building capacity for students to be able to model disease, strengthen healthcare system, right from elementary school, start being passionate about it and what they can do. That's one thing that within the next 5 years, we will be expanding on. We're doing a lot on that right now, but we'll be expanding on building that capacity. Another additional thing that we will be doing that you see within the next 5 years is we'll deploy those mosquitoes monitoring tool within the country. You have them across the country. We'll be able to have that mis and disinformation tool to be deployed here. People will be using that to address misinformation and disinformation within the community. We'll expand our real-time AI-powered earlier warning system focus and hotspot detection tool to other major diseases. Currently, right now, we have that for respiratory diseases, RSV, flu, COVID, H5N1. We want to expand that. As a lot of vector-borne diseases that are coming into the country, we want to expand that tool for other diseases within the country. In addition to, currently right now, we only have particular topics about particular disease within communities and the sentiment towards different diseases. We want to expand that and get that intelligence so that policymakers have that intelligence as we continue building our relationship with policymakers and community health centers across the entire country and moving to other communities. We spend a lot of time working with the Black communities. We would like to expand that and move to indigenous communities across the entire country, where at the moment we're discussing with a lot of colleagues at Yellowknife and Alberta to work with some indigenous communities there. And we'll be expanding that across the entire country to work with different communities. The capacity we are building, the tool that we'll be deploying here within Canada, we are moving on to create kind of a cluster for health emergencies. If you have any health emergency in the country, can you reach out to AIMMLab and get experts that already have pre-ready solutions to be deployed to solve that issue? We have a lot of mathematical modeling templates right now and AI templates that are used by government across the global south and some communities across Canada. Our hope right now is to have a complete center for health emergency that's looking at different health emergency issues and providing and have ready-made solution for communities to use. So this is what you should expect from us in the next 5 years.
Jude, I'm so glad that you were able to touch on everything that we can anticipate from the AIMMLab in the next 5 years, and I'm sure beyond as well. So that brings us to the end of the final episode and the conclusion of this 5-part mini-series. Thank you so much to you, Jude, and to your team for joining us to talk about all of the work that you've been doing in AI and math modeling, and most importantly, in working with communities to co-create health solutions. Do you have any final comments you would like to share with either listeners or maybe with the members of the AIMMLab team?
Thank you very much, Wendy. I would just want to say that what have really led us to this success is premise that we all know nothing about the community without the community. Planning with the community, learning from the community, co-creating with the community, acting with the community when it comes to acting, and building capacity with the community. When people say, how do the community just deploy your solutions very fast? How are you able to scale up solutions very fast? It's because communities are involved in creating this. As we do this, a lot of mathematicians will say, well, it's very difficult to do this deployment work and be able to do your methodological work. No, with ours, what we have realized is that when we sit with the communities and they present issues, if we try to deploy the tools that exist, there's no tool to be deployed, then we see a vacuum there and we create methods that are being deployed. So at the end, we do both work. We have people developing methods and then deploying existing and the ones that we're developing to solve issues within the communities. And at the end, the tools that we deploy are being used by the communities because they were created with the communities. So a take-home message is always plan with the communities, always act with the communities, always learn from the communities, co-create with the communities, and build capacity within the community. I would not be able to achieve what I've achieved so far at AIMMLab if it was not for the brilliant team that you have listened to in the previous episodes. Yang, Sherif, Chin, Zara, Gilan, Abbas. Team will not exist, will not be able to get to where we are without you. I don't think the word thank you is enough to articulate clearly how much I appreciate what you've done to build capacity within the student, build capacity in communities, build the solutions that are being used in communities across the entire world. I'm grateful for what you've done, and I do see the future of this country being brighter because people like you exist and you put in all your time and energy to ensure that you build that capacity that we need. So thank you so much, Wendy. I'm grateful to the National Collaborative Center for Infectious Disease for giving us this platform, for the support. It's only through a center like this that we'll be able to break those silos that exist and solve the problem in our community. And I really appreciate the focus on communities. So thank you so much, Wendy, for what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Jude. And I am forever grateful for you and everyone at the AIMMLab team for joining me on this podcast to share more about their work and giving me the opportunity to highlight all of the amazing research that's coming out of this team. So once again, thank you so much, Jude.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful to my colleague and our school for the platform, bringing students, giving us a platform to train communities, train students, community workers that are making data actionable for policies and train students to do this. So we are very grateful.
Thank you so much, Jude. This is the final episode of this 5-part mini-series with the AIMMLab about the work that this team is doing in the field of AI and math modeling for public health. A huge thank you to everyone from the AIMMLab for being a part of this project and for everyone who has been following along. If you have any questions related to this episode, the mini-series, or would like another math modeling concept or researcher featured on this podcast, please write to us at nccid@umanitoba.ca. Production of this podcast has been made possible through a financial contribution from the Public Health Agency of Canada, but the views expressed here do not necessarily represent those of the agency. Learn more at nccid.ca.